remember that we are still in homogeneous coordinates when we land in the CCS. So the CCS coordinate system, we are still in homogeneous coordinates. We haven't dehomogenized. We haven't divided by the homogeneous coordinate yet. The reason for this is that you want to do clipping in these coordinates. So you have landed in a cube in homogeneous coordinates. You want to do your clipping, your view frustum clipping with the CCS in the CCS coordinate system. And you already know how to do clipping with a cube. Remember the 3D form of the Cohen-Sutherland algorithm. So this is one of the advantages of being in a cube. You get to use our nice Cohen-Sutherland algorithm to do your clipping. And we all know that that can be implemented very efficiently. Now, why am I asking you to do clipping in CCS in homogeneous coordinates instead of dividing by the homogeneous coordinate, dehomogenizing your view frustum and your model, coming back to Euclidean, and then doing the clipping? So what is the advantage in doing the clipping in CCS? And this I want you to figure out. Why do you want to do the clipping in CCS before you have divided by the homogeneous coordinate? And as a hint, I can already tell you that you will be able to construct a case where if you do the clipping after division by the homogeneous coordinate, the clipping will be incorrect. You will clip your geometry with the incorrect clipping plane. Okay. So to construct this example, you need not consider very complicated geometry. You can consider simple line segments. So consider that there is a line segment that is a part, or maybe 2 or 3 line segments that are a part of your world that exist partially inside the view frustum in VCS. When you transform the view frustum to the CCS canonical view frustum, these line segments will also get transformed. Figure out which plane is clipping these line segments, and then divide by the homogeneous coordinate to drop from the CCS to the normalized device coordinate system, that is the NDCS, and again try clipping in NDCS. And you should be able to figure out the example of a line segment where if instead of clipping in CCS, you clip in NDCS, the clipping is incorrect. Okay. The operation that we do to come from CCS to NDCS is called the perspective divide. Right? You are dividing by the homogeneous coordinate. Once you are in NDCS, all coordinates are normalized to ±1. So you might say that even in CCS we were in ±1. Well, UVN was in ±1, but the homogeneous coordinate was at some W. So after you have divided by the homogeneous coordinate, everything is at ±1. And this is called the normalized device coordinate system. Okay. So notice that by going from VCS to CCS and then to NDCS, we haven't had to consider any quantity that depends on the size of your window. All we needed to construct this was these four values: L, R, T, B, N, and F. Okay, so just given LRTB, which are the extents of the near plane, and N and F, so these six values rather, N and F are the distances of the near and the far plane in the VCS. We can construct this matrix that will get us from the VCS to CCS, and then when you divide by the W coordinate, you are in the NDCS. What is the OpenGL command that will give you this transformation? Well, earlier in fixed function OpenGL, that is up to OpenGL 2.1, this was there as a part of OpenGL. Now it is there in GLM, and you have to construct this matrix and multiply it with the vertices in a shader. So you can either call GLM frustum with L, R, B, T, N, F. So you can either call GLM frustum or you can call GLM perspective, right? So GLM perspective takes as input the field of view in the Y direction, the aspect, that is the width to height ratio, and N and F, right? So what is the difference between these two? GLM perspective considers that L is equal to R and T is equal to B, whereas GLM frustum gives you the option of choosing different L and R and different T and B. Okay, N and F give you the distance of the near and the far clipping planes from the eye, and they must be positive numbers, right? Internally, the near plane is placed at 0, 0, minus N and 0, 0, minus F, as we did with our derivation. And N and F must not be equal. So typically N is less than, say, 0.1, that is a good value for N, and F is greater than something like 1000. So you typically have that kind of a scale difference between N and F, and your world is contained between N and F. So these are conservative values for N and F. You can make N and F come closer or make them go away further depending upon your scene. Now the final stage, where we need to map the normalized device coordinates to screen or window coordinates or the display device coordinates, and this is done by what is known as the viewport transformation. So you specify your viewport by doing the following. You give the extents of the window. Okay, so here you have given the top extent of the window and the bottom extent of the window. So this is the Y top and Y bottom, and you have given the left extent and the right extent of the window. Another way of doing this is by giving one of the corners and the width and the height. You can figure out the extents of the window from that as well. Okay, so if TW, BW, LW, and RW are the extents of the window, then the DCS transform, right, or the NDCS to DCS transform is supposed to do the following. It maps the X to the window coordinate. So this is now going to be a pixel coordinate, right? So X plus 1, RW minus LW by 2 plus LW, and YW is Y plus 1, TW minus BW by 2 plus BW. Okay, so notice that it is counting the Y coordinate from BW, and Z is going to map to Z plus 1 by 2. So X and Y become coordinates on the window, and we are still carrying the value of the Z coordinate with us, and this is very important. This is also one of the reasons why we did not directly apply the projection to the object in VCS and drop to 2D. Because if we did that, we would lose this information. We would lose the Z coordinate. And the Z coordinate is very valuable to us because it lets us figure out occlusion and visibility. This transformed Z value, where we are transforming Z to Z plus 1 by 2, is known as the pseudo depth. Right? So this is not the real depth value in the world between the objects, but this is the depth at the end of your modeling viewing pipeline when you are in DCS. And this is the value that you will use to pass on to a visibility algorithm that will resolve visibility for you. Okay? And that is a topic of our next lecture. So what are the corresponding OpenGL commands that allow you to do the viewport transform? And this time it is a OpenGL command and not a GLM command, because it deals with the device values. So here you can see GL viewport takes as input the X and Y for the corner of the window and the width and height of your window. And there is also this command called GL depth range that takes the values that your near and far plane should be mapped to. So the near plane should go to 0 and the far plane should go to 1. This is by default. If you do not give OpenGL this command, it will still work, because it will assume that the depth range is from 0 to 1. Okay. So remember, at the end of NDCS, N and F were at -1 and +1. So Z plus 1 by 2, which is the transform for pseudo depth, transforms it to the range 0 to 1. And GL viewport does the transformation for X and Y. X and Y were also in the range -1 to +1. And they are mapped to their corresponding window coordinates. So you can see that the transformation type that will do this kind of a mapping that is required for the DCS is given to you by a scaling. So these are the scaling factors and a translation. So this is the translation. So please construct the matrix for the DCS. So that completes our discussion of the modeling viewing pipeline. There is just one more thing that we must know. Instead of starting with a perspective transform, you could have directly started with an orthographic view frustum. Instead of starting with a perspective view frustum, you could have started with an orthographic view frustum, because you wanted to view an orthographic projection instead of a perspective projection. Then you do not need to do the shear and the projection normalization to get to CCS. You already have a cube. You just need to recenter it so that the origin is in the middle, and you need to scale it down. So the VCS to CCS transformation then is just a combination of a scaling and a translation, and it is going to look like this. And this transformation is produced by these two GLM commands, GLM ortho, right? If you look at our modeling transform demo that is given in the CG demo GitHub repository, then you will see that it has an option to toggle between a orthographic frustum or an orthographic camera and a perspective camera. Okay, So please see what is the difference in the view that of the teapot that you see when you toggle between the orthographic frustum and the perspective frustum. And then you can go into the code and you can check that which GLM command has been used to get the matrices for the corresponding frustum. And this is what I was saying to you a slide or two ago, that the reason you carry the pseudo depth right to the end of the modeling viewing pipeline is because it helps you with visibility computation. And the algorithm that is going to help you do this is the Z buffer algorithm. And this is what we will see in our next lecture. Before we end, I want to make this small observation that we started by modeling our object in some modeling coordinate. We applied modeling transformations to this to come to WCS. Then we applied the viewing transformation to this to come to VCS. Then we applied the projection normalization set of transforms to come to CCS. Okay. And finally, we applied the perspective divide after this. So this transform here is known as the model view matrix, as I have already told you before. This transform here in OpenGL language is called the projection transform, right? This is the vertex coordinate that you must leave OpenGL with at the end of the vertex shader. So it is your job to construct the matrices M, AWV and AVC. These two you can take the help of GLM commands to get. These you must decide what operations you want to perform, whether they are rotations or translations or scalings or shear or reflections. You also have some GLM commands to help you perform construct these matrices, but then you have to multiply them all together to get one composite modeling matrix. Then you must do this product either in your application program or in your shader. But finally, the composite matrix must be available to the shader so that whenever it gets a vertex position from your VBO, it is able to multiply it with these matrices, and this vertex position, the resulting vertex position, is what must be set to GL position, right? So this is an internal variable that is available to you in a vertex shader. So GL position for every vertex must be equal to the product of the projection matrix times the model view matrix times the incoming vertex. Okay. Then OpenGL is going to take this vertex, the GL position vertex that is in the CCS. It is going to do the perspective divide and take it to NDCS internally. Then it is going to take the matrix that it forms by the GL viewport command, take it to device coordinates and hand it over to the rasterizer. So once it is out of the vertex shader, the process is automatic. So if up to here, you have to code this in a vertex shader or your application program. After this, you will have the perspective divide for the NDCS. After this, you will have the DCS, which comes from GL viewport. And after that, things are handed over to the rasterizer. So the Z buffer algorithm we will see runs in tandem with the rasterizer. So it is sort of available to you by default. But we still have to figure out what is a Z buffer algorithm. That is what we will see in the next stage of our course, right? We will see it in the next lecture. So this is where we are in our flow of data through the GPU, right? So we have brought it down to a stage where it is amenable to being rasterized. Remember, we started our course by looking at rasterization. And then we have slowly built up all this machinery that connects all the pieces together and gets our geometry from the 3D world to the rasterizers. Okay. Now the only missing pieces that we need before we can finally emit fragments. One is visibility, figuring out visibility, and the other is figuring out shading or lighting information. Okay, so we will first look at visibility, then we will look at a few more advanced forms of modeling, and then we will move on to shading and texture mapping. So that is what is going to be coming up in the course next. I will see you next time. Thank you for your attention. Bye-bye.